There's so much to say. All right, Dana, let's start out.
Just in general. Okay,
yes.
so
there's so much.
I think we know about his character, and what I thought was interesting about Morning Joe is that he was giving Platner it's like leading the witness, right, in a courtroom. He's like, tell me about your trauma and how it hurt your character and how it was like, and he basically listed all of the things that Platner could then say. It's obviously very practiced. He also said flat out to Mika, there's nothing more to come. But everybody's heard the rumors, like there's more to come. However, I will say this. I think that what Sunny Hostin just said is where the Democrats are at the moment. And there was huge turnout of Democrats in Maine last night. And while I still believe that Susan Collins will win, as when she ran in 2000, she won by 9 points. I don't think Maine has changed that much in 6 years, but something's happening. Bernie Sanders is winning all of these different primaries. And there is energy behind that part of the party. I don't know what's going to happen in some of these state races. You could look at it and just logically say, well, that doesn't make sense. He's obviously terrible. He could never win. But when you have turnout like that in a state like Maine that has shown an independent streak, then I do think it might be harder than people think. And it'll be more expensive than people think. And I just keep remembering this one guy, that Alexis McAdams, when she was there, she interviewed a couple different people, and this guy said, I don't care. I'm blue no matter who. So if that's the idea behind it, then the Republicans are not going to be able to just say, obviously this guy is a monster and a pig and he's terrible. I don't know if that will cut it.
Yeah, so strategically, Greg, does that mean that instead of focusing on his imperfections as they were painted, should it now just be about policy? Will that help Susan win?
I don't know. I just look at this, I step back and I see what happens when you frame everything as an existential threat. For Democrats who are always fighting Hitler, every tool is acceptable, including electing a Nazi to fight Hitler, because you need to win the Senate to destroy Hitler. So if you think about all of the bad things that have happened, say, in the last 10 years or so, they're directly linked to this framing that we're fighting a fascist dictator. They built a frame that excuses the behavior that they condemn. That is why you saw the Me Too movement go away. And now, after calling everybody a Nazi, they throw their weight behind one. What have we seen in the last 10 years? We've seen 3 assassination attempts, the murder of Charlie Kirk, riots and looting, covering up a brain-dead president, election tampering, censorship, lying to the public, and now you see the Democrat embracing a Nazi misogynist because the circumstances are life and death, even though they are not. The Dems always portray this next election as something that will cause the end of the world. That way, all of their so-called principles can easily evaporate. For us, it's not existential. We think Platner sucks and he's a pig, but you know what? We'll keep living. But Democrats, they're like fentanyl addicts. And politics is their fentanyl. So they don't care what they look like when they're doing it. So when you're looking at them and you're going, what are you doing? They're like, the world. What should remaining principled Democrats do? Well, they should support Collins. She's a liberal Republican. She has an incredibly low American Conservative Union rating. That doesn't seem to me as an existential choice. The Democrats' back isn't against the wall here. It's not like you're choosing between Platner and David Duke. You're choosing between Platner and a woman with the lowest conservative rating, I think, of all senators. She'll cross party lines like it's a crack in the sidewalk. It's not a big deal. So if you choose Platner over Collins, you have to admit that your existential argument is a sham, because what you're saying is, even if things are okay, i.e., you could vote for Collins, you would still vote for the Nazi. We live in 2 worlds, reality and politics. In reality, if Collins wins, life goes on, nothing really changes. In politics, if Platner loses, a fascist regime will destroy democracy, because in politics, the stakes are delusionally high. Who made those stakes high? the Democrats. We do not have to play ball in this delusion. I never want to hear another moral lecture from those douchebags at Morning Joe. I always knew it was fake. I said it was fake. But now when you see him set up that crap for, you know, these people are absolutely abysmal. And, but by the way, the hysteria around Trump will not go away. Whoever comes next, that'll be Hitler, that'll be a fascist too, and they will do the same thing. God knows what they might elect next.
Right. Standards are obliterated when you are in the apocalypse. You don't care who you're fighting alongside. Give me Weinstein, give me Platner, right? Platner, all that matters is that we defeat the enemy because our lives depend on it.
I like what Greg said. He's like, the Democrats have meth mouth. And they're okay with it. They look in the mirror, no teeth, it's fine. You got to do what you got to do. I've spent years living in Maine, and Platner is a vibe. I understand why he's connecting. This guy's voice sounds like a pickup truck driving over gravel. This guy wears LL Bean, jeans. He looks like he drinks a lot and spends a lot of time on a dock. He's got tattoos. He's a Marine. He's a Bernie bro from next door in Vermont. He's kind of got Oliver Anthony energy, like he hates the rich men. So he's a liar. And he's kind of a fraud, but he's getting away with it because Maine is a poor white New England state. Fuel costs are really high. They don't eat well there. Their health care costs are really high. When I go there, I don't eat well. So he's tapped into it. And just tapping into it is enough to get elected these days. The Republicans just can't sensationalize him. I agree with Dana. Remember when we Me Too'd Bill Clinton? What'd that do? They tried to Me Too Trump. What'd that do? You can't say, oh, he's a racist, he's a Nazi. I mean, look what that's done to Donald Trump. He's been elected twice. Yes, the guy is an ogre. He's a degenerate. He looks like he lives under a bridge. But I don't think that's going to cut it because the Democrats will rally around someone like that. If everyone's throwing this at him and he's lying and he's kind of getting through it, they're going to say, hey, maybe this guy's got something cooking. The Republicans have to hit him on policy. He's going to raise taxes. He's going to abolish ICE. Green New Deal. He has absolutely no common sense solutions for Maine. In fact, if he gets in there and Collins is out, he can't bring home the bacon. When the Republicans control the Senate, they'll throw Susan stuff. When the Democrats control it, they'll throw Susan pork. If this guy gets in there, he's cut off because he's a Bernie guy, and the Republicans think he's nuts. So I would hit him like that with a laser beam right between the eyes, and we do a cable show. So we sensationalize it. It's fun to talk about nipples and Nazism and sexting, but that's not going to do it.
Yes,
we
to all
love
of that.
talking about that.
I can't stop.
I've been dying to ask you why the Democrats didn't use the weight of the machine that we have seen at play, literally remove and disappear people all over this United States. Why didn't they find someone more normal? While I'm in the conspiracy theory train, why didn't they find a candidate that maybe wouldn't even have the ogre?
They had one.
Why didn't they put the machine behind?
Well, they tried. The machine hunted Jared Golden, who would have trounced in this primary, but he doesn't want to be in politics anymore because of the tone and the tenor of it, that his family gets threats. And he was like, you know what? I'm out of here. He's a moderate guy who wins Maine second. When the state goes for Trump, Jared Golden still wins. He's got tattoos. He's got the whole thing. He doesn't quite sound like the truck running over gravel, but he sounds pretty damn good. He didn't want to do it. Then Chuck Schumer went and he got Janet Mills, who if Janet Mills was 6 years younger, it might have worked at this moment. But Jesse, and I don't know, clip this. Jesse Waters is right. Don't think I've said that before. And to what Greg said about nothing changes if Susan Collins is the senator, again, if she wins re-election, that is the problem for Mainers, and that is the problem across this country. They want change agents. You guys were the ones who were telling me in 2016.
What happens if you don't get it?
What do you mean? Then
what does the world end?
You know what happens? So Susan Collins, who touts her independent streak, now votes with Trump 95% of the time. So she continues to back his agenda. And guess what? There's going to be 1, maybe 2 Supreme Court seats up. And Susan Collins is going to vote for his nominee, who will be an even younger Brett Kavanaugh, like she did for Kavanaugh. And you know who won't do that? Graham Platner will stand in the way.
So you're validating exactly what I said. You are painting some kind of an existential.
I do think it is. When you look at the decisions,
so you would vote for him.
Susan Collins, who likes to hang her
vote
proverbial
for a guy with
hat
a Nazi
on,
tattoo.
Listen, I said I feel lucky that I am not voting in Maine right now. I think it is a very tough decision. I wish I was in New York 12 and I had a more interesting race to be voting in on the congressional level now, but I'm in Dan Goldman's district. Susan Collins loves to say, I'm pro-choice. The Dobbs decision, right? Throw it back to the states. We have 13 states alone that have trigger laws in them, where if you're in 6 weeks pregnant, you can't get access to reproductive health care. That's something that mortally offends Susan Collins. But yet she votes for Republican nominees to the court who go ahead and put through a decision like the Dobbs decision.
Which was
That's
fine.
why, no, it's fine to you. It is not fine to the women who are bleeding out, who cannot get the care that they need.
Bleeding out?
And yes, that's what happens, Greg. If you go to an emergency room and you are in the middle of a
the millions of women are going to bleed out if Susan Collins. Do you see the point? If Susan Collins wins, millions of women will bleed out. That's what they want you to believe. Okay. That's my point.
It is a change
prove it.
Election where people are amped up. Dana already talked about the huge turnout. And if you listen to Platner's speech yesterday, he said a couple of things that I think are really important. I've made mistakes in my life, mistakes that I regret, that I live with and continue to learn from. If you give me the chance, I will be a senator for the people who cannot afford to buy a senator. That's what people are looking for. They want someone in office who they don't think can be bought off. And then about Collins pointing out the 95% voting with Trump. When you listen to Republicans that are going after Graham Platner, they're doing the stuff that Jesse is saying. Like I was listening to, and I adore her, Kellyanne last night talking about his scandals, cheated on his wife, he lied, insulted heroes. That's Donald Trump.
No, he did not insult heroes.
Yes, he.
That was the hoax. And when you're saying in
I'm sorry.
France.
Donald Trump never insulted John McCain. Okay. All right.
That was a Chris Rock joke. Anyway, the point being that you guys created the rules that you break. You guys created the Me Too movement. You guys created the Nazi hysteria. And now you're throwing it all away.
They created toxic masculinity, and now they embrace it.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's what you told us. You said, get some dudes, win an election.
Congrats.
Maybe we're going to win an election.
Well done.
Yeah, you found a great dude. Good for you.
I did not pick the dude.
Real dudes
You're
do
doing
not
a great
abuse
job
them.
of defending him.
Well, I'm just telling you what's happening on the ground. Jesse said it first.
Yeah.
You didn't yell at him.
I don't take anything from Jesse seriously.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.